cái tình dục ấy nó là vấn đề cực kỳ quan trọng trong một cái cuộc sống của vợ chồng. Tôi nói thật, anh nào mà yếu về sinh lý ấy, thì đã mất nửa đời người khoái cảm rồi. Mà như thế thì còn gì nữa. Một đời người sống được bao nhiêu năm lắm mà yếu. Tâm này, can này, tỳ này, phế này, thận khỏe. Khi nó khỏe được như thế thì nó kéo cái sinh lý lên, thế nó mới bền chặt.
Cái sản phẩm Chuẩn Xuân Vương này, từ khi tôi sử dụng thì tôi thấy sức khỏe rất tốt. Chung là ngủ tốt, mà về bên đây sinh lý cũng rất tốt. Thì so với cái sản phẩm khác thì tôi thấy nó tốt rất nhiều, tốt hơn rất là nhiều.
Công nhận là cái sản phẩm này quá hiệu quả. Từ khi mà ông xã nhà tôi sử dụng cái sản phẩm Trường Xuân Vương này, bà biết như nào, không ngờ được luôn. Eo ơi, thật sự là trước kia ấy, vài tháng không đụng đến, có khi nửa năm hai vợ chồng cũng chả đụng chạm gì. Nhưng đến khi sử dụng cái sản phẩm này khá, ôi dồi ôi, lên vù vù, tôi thật sự choáng luôn ấy.
Thực ra mà nói hiện tôi đã dùng cái này được 1 tháng rồi. Hiện nay chứng rối loạn cương dương, xuất tinh sớm của tôi là hết sạch. Và lúc nào cũng thấy vợ thì cũng vui, thấy mình cũng vui. Cái công việc lại làm ăn lại suôn sẻ. Nói thật với các bạn là như thế. Bây giờ thì tôi phục vụ bà ấy tới bến luôn.
Sản phẩm Trường Xuân Vương này rất là tốt. Thì tôi dùng khoảng độ được 2 tuần. Tôi thấy cảm thấy người nó khỏe khoắn ra. Mà bởi khi tôi dùng được 1-2 tháng rồi, nó đỡ ra. Mà coi như cảm thấy đi lại với vợ nó khoan khoái hơn.
Qua cái thời gian sử dụng Trường Xuân Vương ấy, thì mình thấy là cơ thể mình khỏe lên rất là nhiều. Và mình thấy sinh lực của mình nó dồi dào hơn rất là nhiều. Khỏe mình đã tốt lên rất là nhiều. Mình ham muốn nhiều hơn. Đời sống của vợ chồng nó phong phú hơn và nó hạnh phúc hơn rất nhiều. Mình chơi thể thao cũng thấy khỏe hơn nhiều và vận động thì không cảm thấy bị đau nhức xương khớp nữa. Rất là cảm ơn với đến sản phẩm Trường Xuân Vương vì nó giúp cho đời sống vợ chồng mình cũng như là cuộc sống của mình hạnh phúc hơn rất là nhiều và viên mãn hơn rất nhiều.
Gần đây tôi có biểu hiện của chứng rối loạn cương dương. Đây là một vấn đề rất là nhạy cảm. Sau khi sử dụng thử một liệu trình, tôi thấy sức khỏe cũng như những triệu chứng của tôi giảm rõ rệt. Chính vì sản phẩm này mà đời sống vợ chồng của tôi đã được cải thiện rất là nhiều.
Sản phẩm Trường Xuân Vương là sự kết hợp tinh túy giữa nhiều loại thảo dược tự nhiên như dâm dương hoắc, đỗ trọng, ba kích cùng nhiều thành phần nam y thảo mộc quý hiếm khác, được điều chế bằng công nghệ hiện đại, là sự kết hợp hoàn hảo giữa tinh hoa núi rừng và công nghệ tiên tiến, giúp tác động đồng thời vào 4 cơ chế sinh lý ở nam giới như mạch máu, thần kinh, nội tiết, tâm thần. Có tác dụng nâng cao sức khỏe nam giới, hỗ trợ bổ thận tráng dương, tăng cường khả năng sinh lý nam một cách bền vững.
That's very hard to have in a living room, but if you provide good light and water it correctly, the tree will be fine. And in most areas, you can place it outdoors from spring, summer, and perhaps fall as well. And so you would only keep it indoors in winter, if you can. These trees are sold all over the place, quite cheap, and it's not a hard tree to keep alive. What it does do, it grows long shoots everywhere. If you fertilize it and provide lots of light, so you will have to maintain your tree. And this video is all about the maintenance for ficus bonsai. So before we talk about the maintenance, I want to explain to you how this tree came to be. This is an imported tree from China, where they are grown by the 100,000s. So big fields of ficus trees that grow maybe 10 feet tall. And the reason they let them grow so quickly and so tall is to thicken up the trunk. So they add some movement in the trunk, and then they have a long shoot into the sky, and the more it grows, the faster the trunk gains a bit of curve. At some point, so maybe 2 or 3 years in the development of the tree, they cut off this long shoot, so you see that right here. And then they spend about a year or so to develop a few of the branches here, and they ship it off in containers to Europe, to the United States, etc. So that's how they speed up the development of this tree by having that long shoot, and that keeps the cost down. So these kind of trees aren't very expensive. If you have one of these trees, you will probably, if you don't prune it very often, you will have these long shoots, and you have to work with that. So you have to prune your tree every now and then. It is fall right now, that's an excellent time to do drastic maintenance. So today I can prune, I can wire, I can even put it in a new pot. But throughout the year, so in summer for example, I would still prune it, but I wouldn't repot or wire at the same time. So fall is a good time and early spring is a good time to do that more drastic maintenance. So like I said, today we'll repot, prune and wire. And since we're repotting, we can also discuss the front of the tree. So right now it's planted in a rectangular pot, so that means that this is the front or this is the front. But actually I think the tree looks a little better if you place it at an angle. So this is one option for the front. So changing it around so the pot would be like this. So actually the pots that I have in mind are a little smaller. So this could be one. And I hope actually it will fit in this small pot. So the orientation of the pot will be like that. And the other potential front is like this. And actually I think this might be the optimal front. Also because the top of the tree is coming in your way and there's two branches that kind of hug you, which looks really nice. So I think when we repot the tree, this is going to be the front. So let's see what pot will be able to fit it in. But before we repot, I want to style the tree a little bit. So the way to do that, also for the ficus tree that you might have at home, is to start with pruning. And this is always a bit scary, especially for beginners, because you don't know exactly what design you're after. But the easiest way to get started is by pruning away the things that you know for sure you won't be able to use. So let's take this shoot as an example. It's a long shoot. There's no way that I will use this section of the tree because the tree will be smaller. So I'm just going to prune, let's say, right here. Not too much, I can prune more later. And I'm just going through the tree like that, just cutting these long shoots off. Some basic pruning. And just by this basic pruning, you start to understand the branch structure of your tree a little bit. So a few more cuts and let's study the tree now. So just by pruning these few branches, the shape of the tree is already much better. I'll continue pruning and also wire the tree a little bit. So some of these branches should come down a bit. And we'll take it from there. If you are reluctant to use wire, you can also just simply only prune the tree, that's fine. But today I'll wire a few of these branches just to be able to set them in position.
Deciding on the design of a bonsai isn't always easy, especially when a tree is as full and overgrown as this plant. Try to apply the pruning guidelines we just mentioned to your own trees. And if you are interested to learn more about these techniques, consider enrolling in one of our online bonsai courses. Here, expert teachers explain the relevant techniques, and you can ask them questions. For a free lesson, go to bonsaiempire.com/courses.
All right, so finished pruning the tree, and like I said, I started with taking off those longer shoots, and then I started taking a bit more off. But simply reducing the length of these shoots already brings back a really nice shape of the canopy. So actually, you could keep the tree like this. It doesn't really need wire. I do think it needs a smaller pot because the tree, especially now that I pruned it, it's the pot is too large for this size of tree. So we'll repot next, but like I said, I like to add a bit of wire to a few of these branches to set them in position a little bit better. So I'm talking about these 2 branches, bring them down, and a few other branches as well, but not too much. So I'll show the wiring in a detail shot later, but one of the essential rules, so to say, of wiring is that it really helps to wire 2 branches of more or less the same thickness with 1 piece of wire. So that means that I'll coil the wire once or twice around the trunk, and then one end of the wire goes on this branch and the other end of the wire goes on this branch. And that will really stabilize the wire and helps me to set these branches in the exact position that I like them to be in. So having wired these 2 long branches next up with relatively thick wire, then I can wire perhaps a few of the twigs attached to those branches with smaller wire. But the rule of trying to wire 2 branches with 1 piece of wire remains the same. Only if I run out of options, I can use a wire just for 1 piece of branch, but then I'll have to coil it a few times around another thicker branch or the trunk. So like I said, I'll add a bit of wire now, and then the next step is repotting it, placing it with the right front in a smaller pot.
The wire applied here is anodized aluminum bonsai wire. It's available in most bonsai stores, and this is the wire we use for wiring most deciduous tree species. We do wire junipers and pine trees with copper wire sometimes, just because it's a little bit stronger and more stiff. But for the softer tissue of a ficus like this, we would definitely use aluminum wire. In this shot you can see that we coil the wire around the branch, and then in the next shot you'll see that we'll wire with that same piece of wire the other branch. But at the trunk we coil the wire
has a massive CNC machine. Now we are obviously not in a position to purchase a CNC machine because it's truly really expensive. So for a small cost, we just take it to our supplier. It takes us around about 2 hours to flatten our table both sides. And this is the most critical step in making sure that you have a flat surface between your wood and your epoxy. Now, the way we previously done it, I think we only done it once or twice way at the start when we started manufacturing epoxy tables, is we would have done it manually with a router sled. Now, there's nothing wrong with it, but we found that it's so messy and it takes us just too much time in getting our surface flat. And that's why we don't waste our time anymore. We just pay the small fee, and doing it on a CNC machine is just way faster, and it saves us so much time in completing this project. Having the table back in my shop, we are going to start sanding with our Festool Rotex machine in the Rotex setting. Now, the Rotex setting is like a belt sander setting, but it's not as aggressive as a belt sander. This step is to remove all the CNC lines the CNC machine made. You will see on the table there's so many lines, and the
First layer has become tacky. This masterclass has been designed for all woodworkers, from your beginner all the way up to your experts. Click on this video or in the description down below for more information.
So the prices for the course will go up by next month, so you guys must probably have another week left. Then the course will double in price, so make sure you go and check it out before the prices go up. Continuing with the video, like I mentioned before, we are using a deep casting epoxy, which technically we can cast the whole table in one go, but what we found is that casting in layers, we are still using a deep casting epoxy, but casting the table over the course of, say, 5 to 6 days, casting a total amount of, depending on the thickness of the slab, we will cast around about five layers we will cast, and we found that this reduces the amount of bubbles we have. Remember, we don't seal our live edges, so you will always have small micro bubbles on the edge of your slab. This is why we cast in layers, because deep casting epoxy obviously takes longer to cure, and this helps us to remove 98% of all our air bubbles. Now, taking the table to one of our suppliers' shop, which he something special. Something the client asked us that they don't want a traditional epoxy river table. They wanted something different, something funky. And that's where the design part of this project was really tricky. I think we took, normally when we design epoxy tables, we will take around about half an hour to an hour to design the layout. We will send it to the client and they were happy with it. With this specific project, we took almost, I would say, estimate around about 3 hours just to design this table. And I honestly do have to say that this table came out absolutely stunning. The specific wood species we are using for this project is called Matumi, because we always get queries internationally for all the tables we build. People always want to know what wood species we are using. So it's called Matumi, and unfortunately for all the international viewers, this is only locally sourced from South Africa. It comes more from Tseninworld up all the way into Botswana, going up all the way into Africa. It's one of the most popular wood species to build epoxy tables in our country. And I honestly do have to say the design came out magnificent. Also, another tip I want to share with you guys, what I'm busy doing now, is something we normally don't record on video. And before you're going to place your slabs into the mold, always make sure to airbrush them to remove all the dust particles from your slab. Also, remember to wipe your wood off, because there will always be I can guarantee you that most probably by the near future, there will always be smaller things in our shop we will change, just to make life easier for us and to make the design and manufacturing of building epoxy tables easier for us. And you guys do want to stick around till around about the middle part of this video, because there's a really important announcement we want to share with all the hobbyists, the DIYers, and for all the people that wants to start a company but don't know where to start. And you guys do want to stick around till the end to see how this masterpiece came out. Now, starting this week's project off, we are going to build something unique. Now I'm just busy testing out our new tool in our shop, and that is a vacuum chamber. And I honestly do have to say that this changed the way we build tables. This method is literally removing all the air bubbles from your epoxy. It was quite expensive, but definitely an investment for our company. Now, busy casting the epoxy, you will see as we cast more layers after one another, you will see the colors will become darker on the blue. And another tip I want to share with you guys, when you're going to pour your epoxy, pour it on a ridge, on an edge of your table. This will prevent more air bubbles from coming out. And another tip I want to share with you guys is that when you're casting your epoxy, cast it slowly. And as you can see, my live edges on my slabs are not sealed. Now, the way we previously done it in the past is we would seal our live edges with epoxy. We will wait for it to dry. Then we will come and scuff it and sand it up. So when we're going to cast our epoxy, that the new epoxy we're casting will bond to the edge of our slab. But we stopped using that method because if you think about it logically, we want the epoxy to penetrate into the wood. And thus is why we are using this method I'm currently using. We are using a deep casting epoxy, which means I can literally cast the full depth of this table in one go. But we see smaller dust particles that you need to remove before you're going to cast your epoxy. Now we're just busy placing all our pieces of wood into our mold we just built. And I know I'm most probably going to get some critics for this step, but we found in removing all the dust particles before we're going to cast our epoxy, we just use a leaf blower because there's enormous amount of air that comes out that goes into all the small little cracks and holes that will remove the last dust particles. Now I'm just busy calculating the amount of epoxy we're going to use, and this was a really tricky calculation because there was a lot of bends, twists and turns, height differences. But at the end, it's not that difficult of a calculation to make. It's really simple if you don't complicate things too much. It's a simple calculation of length times width times height. And I will go more into detail on this in the center of this video, where I'm going to do some more explanation on a epoxy masterclass we are presenting for people that wants to start building epoxy tables. Now I'm just busy mixing my part A resin and my part B hardener together, and it's quite critical to get your ratios absolutely 100%. You don't want a mistake at this part. Another tip I want to share with you guys is in mixing your colors. The specific client asked for a transparent blue color, and it's quite critical in each batch of epoxy you're mixing that you add the exact same amount of drops in to have consistent color scheme. I am going to leave a link down in the description of this video where you can go to our website and where you can purchase this online epoxy masterclass. I think there's more than 1,000 people that already purchased the class, and we have so much positive feedback on people that started small companies. People that were so scared of working with epoxy that are so comfortable with working epoxy now. People that's making small chopping boards. People that's DIYists and hobbyists that were so afraid of working with epoxy, and now they are so comfortable with working with epoxy. Like I mentioned, this will literally show you every single thing in detail, how we manufacture and design all our tables. Check this ad out and you can decide for yourself if you want to purchase it or not.
We've been building epoxy tables for many years now, and we are finally going to share all our methods and techniques with you. My name is Greg, and I am going to show you how to build the perfect epoxy table. I'm going to show you all the tools you need, exactly how to use them, and show you some tips and tricks down the line. Everyone thinks you need to cast your second layer of epoxy once your first layer has set. That's not true. You need to cast your second layer of epoxy once you're...
Still prefer to cast our epoxy in layers, which takes us round about 5 to 6 days. It's winter now, so it will take round about 6 days because the epoxy takes longer to cure. And this is a massive tip I want to share with you guys in casting the next layer. As you can see, the layer I'm busy tapping now is tacky. It's like a toffee, but it's still not a liquid form. And this is absolutely the best method we found in casting the next layer of epoxy. Instead of waiting for that layer to dry and sand it and then cast your next layer, we will wait for the perfect timing once the layer you just casted becomes tacky, that you cast your next layer. That bond between the two layers are absolutely the best bond you will ever get. So there's something I want to share with you guys in something we've been working extremely hard on. And that is by compiling a complete epoxy online masterclass. We get so much queries internationally of all the methods we're using. People keeps on asking us sanding methods, polishing methods, you know, everything regarding how to build an epoxy table successfully. So we took the liberty in designing and filming a full 3-hour online course which you can watch in your own time, exactly how we manufacture and design epoxy tables. In this class, we are literally taking you by the hand and showing you from start to finish every single thing you need to know to build an epoxy table successfully. The course is 3 hours long,